Well, Saruhan is back with me to talk about the second child policy and its impact. Welcome back.
Rachelle.
Now, Saruhan, as we look at this, and we look at perhaps the pressure that's being put on now trying to balance work and having children, what impact do you think that's going to have on employers now who have to use maternity?
A big shift in the social arena, and the reforms are not only in the macro area that we talked about, it's taking place in the micro level too. And I think it's a great idea because if you look at countries overall where female participation in the workforce increases productivity overall. So I think that's the right step. And I think the government is going to be introducing measures that provide incentives to the employers as well to make that happen. And again, another point that needs to be made, which we did earlier, is aging China. Right? But the problem, again, I'm not going to look at it from the astrology point of view, but the economics point of view. It's all about supply-demand. And the Chinese government is providing the supply. We do want that because of aging population, but the demand is not there yet, Rachelle. And I think that's an important thing because when we look at China in general, people are complaining about high housing prices, property prices are off the roof, education costs. So they're not as eager to have a second child at this point. I think it's a matter of time. It is going to happen, but this is the right policy to take.
So then in terms of infrastructure, it's not just obviously being able to have a baby, you need the medical facilities, and that's one of the things that's opening up business opportunities. And as we heard earlier, some of these health food companies. What other opportunities do you see there?
Well, it is all about consumer, right, at the early age. And since this is coming at a time where the shift is taking place from investment-based to consumption, this is a great opportunity for retail, great opportunity for technological companies, innovation, and also China is relaxing rules allowing more foreign investment to come, and those foreign investors are looking at niche markets, right? What better niche market than you can find other than this, right? They don't want to go into manufacturing, they don't want to go to steel industry, coal industry, they don't even want to go into retail anymore because retail is also becoming saturated very fast. But the more new niche markets are created, the more foreign investment is going to come and help it boom.
And we're already seeing that when it comes to partnerships between private and public, when it comes to hospitals. A lot of people are perhaps turning to private care. Now, we did mention, of course, the cost of having children and looking at how wages are growing or not growing, depending on where you are in China. How do you see that accommodating now having these second children?
Well, that's going to be tough. We have a tale of two cities in China, no pun intended, with the tier 1 and tier 2, 3 cities where income levels are different, where the property prices are different, where the costs are overall very different. So for a family in a tier 3, tier 4 area where there's property overhang and they're having difficulty in buying a house, it is going to be very difficult to have a second child. So I think when the Chinese government confronts this issue, they are going to direct their incentives more so to these areas, making sure that the people have enough incentive, have enough resources to undertake or to have a second child. But again, this is going to be a story in the making. It's not going to be something that's going to be resolved very shortly. The incentives are going to be well thought about and then implemented very carefully.
And lastly, as you were mentioning the property sector, oversupply still a concern, even though the housing market did rebound last year. How do you see that developing?
Well, again, the housing minister said last week that the divergence in the property market is alarming, right? Because in one area you're seeing a lot of demand, but not enough supply. So the Chinese government is trying to get the supply there. And the tier 3, tier 4 we talked about, there's a lot of supply overhang, but the demand is not there. So they're trying to increase demand by providing lower collateral opportunities, providing purchasing subsidy options to consumers there. So we're going to, again, we're seeing a two-tier market in that area. But one concern I have is 2008 mortgage crisis here. When you give consumers lower collaterals or you offer lower collaterals, you reduce interest that they're paying, and then it's a moving interest rate. We all know what happens. So they have to be, the government, the authorities, I think they will, but they have to look at certain markets, how they didn't work, and learn from that.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you so much for joining us this hour. Saruhan Hatipoglu.